So, I have a job. I haven't been in it for a very long time, but I work at a tourist restaurant. I mean, it's not specifically a tourist restaurant, but it's most definitely tailored to tourists. It's an English-speaking restaurant that tailors to English speakers. Honestly, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about waiting tables, but I honestly don't hate it. I have great coworkers for one, and my bosses are actually super sweet. The manager is the daughter of the owner, and I swear, the smiliest person I've ever met in my life. So it's safe to say that we're all pretty happy around the restaurant. I mean, my coworkers are fantastic too. I'm not super close to any of them, but I can definitely consider them my work friends. I'd go out with some of them to lunch if we're all free. That's kind of a thing. Honestly, that was such a relief to have too, because I was so nervous that I wasn't going to get along with everyone. Everyone can be a bit different under stress, and I was just a little freaked out that maybe everyone would be aggressive. But I think I knew I was going to really like it as soon as I had the interview. I felt super comfortable just being myself and talking about life experience. But they really took a chance on me, and that made me feel a lot better. Everyone has been super helpful. My coworkers were great at getting me to practice working on my toes. I've become super nimble in and around the kitchen when I'm delivering and bussing tables. They've helped me learn how to memorize the things I couldn't write down, how to write as fast as a customer talks, the ins and outs of complicated orders, and how to get better tips. All of it. You know, my mom was a waiter at one point in her life to get through high school and college, and so was my dad even. They both had coworker horror stories, which I guess is why I felt so nervous about getting the job and getting to know my coworkers in the first place. I honestly need to stop freaking out about everyone else's horror stories, because more often than not, they just freak me out and prepare me for literally nothing other than relief most of the time that comes from a useless amount of stress. So, there's that. I think one of the great things about being an English speaker living in France with a few other bi, tri, and multilingual people is the fact that all of us can communicate safely, and in a fun way that's not understandable to the rest of the restaurant. You'd think that my bosses would hate that, but even they're in the same boat. Most of the tourists that come in speak very minimal French, which is why they're there in the first place. So, I talk a lot in French, but a couple of my coworkers speak Spanish too, so I might talk in Spanish for the heck of it too. It's really cool realizing that I'm trilingual now. Well, getting there. Hopefully with some more time in the country, I'll finally be able to get there. Seriously, my workplace is just such a fun place to be. It honestly has even upped my performance in work overall. I always feel like I'm in a good mood, and I think that tends to translate over to the customers. I get to talk to a few American tourists from time to time that want to know more about what it's like to be in my position. It's nice to get to have these conversations with people because not all of them are interested in moving and starting a new life, but my coworkers say that charm is the best thing for tips, so I use all the charm I've got. My story of moving to France is a great one to use for that. There's another thing while I'm on the topic, the customers. I must say, I've been pretty lucky so far with customers. I might get some nitpicky ones or slightly stern ones, but for the most part, I've never gotten any terrible customers. Granted, I haven't been working here very long, but I have hope I won't run into any crazy customers anytime soon. Sadly, I can't say the same for some of my other coworkers. I've witnessed some things that can be pretty upsetting. From other Americans, no less. I swear, it makes me want to facepalm. I've only seen 2 incidents, and they both made my blood boil, but nothing escalated. There was the classic manager talk that went down with one of them, and we simply switched servers on another occasion. But I swear, it bothers me so much that you can go to another country and walk in like you own the place. I mean, there's a simple thing called respect that I'm pretty sure every basic kindergartner and preschooler learned. Why can't it just be applied? It's really not that hard. As for me though, all of my customers have luckily been polite as far as I can tell. I think the other thing that I like other than the work is definitely the pay. I didn't realize how well I could actually get paid outside of the US. It was a bit of a shock for me, but one that I was most definitely not going to complain about. Fair warning though, work visas are a bit of a process, just to be warned. Going through it almost made me debate whether the job was really worth it. Okay, I'm being overdramatic, but seriously, remember about work visas. I think my least favorite thing will forever and always be the cleaning. The messes that people go make at their tables. I mean, I look back on me as a kid being one of those kids that makes ridiculous messes at the table, and I can't help but feel like I need to track down every waiter that ever served me and apologize to them face to face. Cleaning is seriously no joke. The amount of times I'm almost gagged while picking up stuff off the table is probably not healthy. But I haven't thrown up yet, so I guess that's a plus. Yeah, I don't think that's really anyone's favorite part of the job if I'm being totally honest. Give me a second though, I need to run through everyone I work with in my brain just to make sure that I'm right about this. Yep, not one has cleaning as their favorite part of the job. Anyways, I would say that's one of my few cons. That, and the measly tips. It really doesn't matter how hard you try with some people, they're still going to thank you for the meal, take off, and give you a 50-cent tip. Trust me, it's happened already 3 times. Tipping is definitely an art form to pick up on, but that doesn't mean it sucks any less when you get the minimal tippers and the no tippers. They suck. Never fear though, because even when I have those rough days, sometimes we get to closing time. Now those are my favorite days. Those are the days where we are our absolute dumbest and get into all sorts of shenanigans. I have so many videos on my phone of all the random stuff that happens when we're cleaning up after closing. There's a video from this one day where everyone had a song stuck in their head, and so we all just performed them karaoke style using the mops as microphones. I laughed super hard that day, and I don't usually swear during the workday, but I most definitely did when I did that grand performance. I seriously should have gotten a standing ovation for that one. It was disgustingly terrible since I'm not the greatest singer in the world, but I mean, it was fun, and everyone knew I was having fun, so there. There was even this one time when we were in the middle of closing. It was me, 3 of my coworkers, and our manager. We were all just doing the final cleaning touch-ups before we just went ahead and closed for the night, but my buddy Tatiana looked at the bucket. I'm pretty sure she was thinking out loud when she said it, but she was curious on whether anyone would be able to fit themselves in the mopping bucket. We all ended up looking at her, and then at each other, and then at our manager because she was the smallest person there. I was convinced she might wave us off and tell us to keep cleaning, as she's pretty good at doing. She always does it with a smile on her face. However, she shrugged her shoulders, checked to see if the bucket was empty, and she squeezed herself in. We all started laughing, and I whipped out my phone so I could take a picture of the glorious masterpiece in front of me. But when she tried to get out, she realized she was stuck, and that's when we all started laughing. Ronan was trying his best to pull her out of the bucket, but her arms were stuck too, so another person had to come behind her, and they had to lift her with the bucket in order to yank her out. I started recording immediately, and I was dying with laughter the whole time. I had tears in my eyes by the time the night was over. Not to mention, I wouldn't stop giggling about it for days. None of us that were there could. Even at work, we were cracking up for the whole week. We all like to take ridiculous pictures while we're there. I don't know what kind of pictures they have of me on their phones, but I have a feeling I'd rather not know that information for myself. I bet they could use those photos as blackmail. I hope they don't know that. I don't want to get blackmailed in my lifetime. So yeah, that's where I work. I guess there's really not that much to working at a tourist restaurant other than the fact that it's a place meant for people who come to a country they aren't familiar with and going somewhere that is familiar. The workers are the ones that are there and meant to make everyone feel comfortable. There's plenty of things that I still have to get used to. I know I did mention tips, but I also forget that the service charge is a thing. There's usually an automatic fee that the customers pay that goes straight to the server. When my coworkers were helping me out, they were teaching me how to get tips on top of that fee. Is that milking everything out of the tourists? Probably. Do I feel bad? I mean, kind of. But at the same time, I'm still a working class human trying to make their way through life. I'd say that working at a tourist French restaurant is not that different from working anywhere else, but I'm honestly not so sure. I mean, my French and English were both good enough to get me here, which is probably the most important thing, and I think I'm fine with that. If I ever came across a better opportunity, I would take it. But for now, while I'm still picking up on French a little bit more and getting a good work experience, I'm doing just fine right where I am. So, I know this whole video is really about what it's like working at this kind of restaurant, and to answer that question, it's pretty great. I was blessed with a good friend who got me a good job working for some good people. Not everyone could get the same experience as I did in job searching, especially not overseas somewhere you're not entirely familiar with. So, before I wrap up this video, I do want to say really quickly, to my parents, you guys freaked me out about the workforce for no reason. This is freaking great!